Hello, I'm Alone of Finland, this is Space Engineers, and I'm going to continue this explosive playthrough. So, at the moment, we have sort of brought in a whole load of stuff. I've got some miners set up. One of the last things that didn't happen on camera was, I don't know where the footage was for this actually. I was searching for it and couldn't find it. I had made this ship, and I had made a larva miner, which is this little one here. Oh, not turned off the antenna on this one. And I... Oops. Got too close to that thruster. When I was going back to get some ice, I'd slammed it into the thing and completely detonated it. So there should be some shrapnel over there. However, I then went back out to get the thing again with another ship, and when I got there, everything had disappeared. The main ship wasn't there. The the actual items, so like the floating objects that had come from the ship, so scrap metal and stuff that was in the cargo containers, was still there, but the actual ships were gone. I can't find them, and I've only just realised as I'm talking that I could have actually gone in and had a look sort of in the the alt menu, alt F10 menu here, because you do have some stuff, but I hadn't actually done that. So what I had done was I had built up a few other crafts. So I've got another miner here. I've actually got 3 miners that I've built. So I've built 2 of these little larva ones. Again, these are from WHI. And then I built this bigger one. I can't remember the name. I did write them down because I'm making a point of trying to title them similar. So WHI Space Miner, something like that. And then I built another one of these. So I need to get some ice into it and get it disconnected. Still haven't. There we go. Antenna. Turn off the antenna. You're being an idiot. There we go. That's what I need. Turn that off. And for some unknown reason, some thrusters are on and active, and I'm not quite sure why. So all 4 miners are out, and they have stopped with what they are doing. I don't quite know why that thruster sound is going on. It shouldn't be. It does sound like it's one of these guys, so I'm going to turn off their thrusters for a moment, because I'm not going to do any mining for a little bit. This one... oh, that one took some damage. Projector. Oh, and it's... I think it looks like it's nailed its projector. Ah, no, it's got one. There we go. On. I'll get that fixed up. So, turn off the engine for this. Turn off the engine for this. This has got some damage as well. Let me turn that one on. Just got to turn them all on, make sure. That was missing a battery. So something... the attack that happened before has probably lowered some of that. Or it could have been while I was away doing other things that somebody's got hit. Now I'm going to do a bit more mining. But the plan for today is to go through some of the changes, to make note of them, and see what's what and how to build this. So this is the other part of the station. This was the ship I went out with. The Tugcraft is the ship that I went out with to see what was going on, and then I came across this station on the way back. It was, as you can see there was a fight. I managed to claim the station, and then smash the station into one of the pursuing craft. Then I got back here, and I think that was on the last video. You saw this coming in at the end of the last video. So this is the one that is... I've got some stuff to do with it, but I'm figuring there's a lot of hydrogen in there. I want to keep the hydrogen. I might just sort of cut the stuff off and bring it in and weld it together. And then when it comes to these pieces down here, so just to sort of show and explain, there is another section of a station in here. The central bit I don't need, so my plan is to cut off these wings, possibly quite close in, and then reattach them, but instead of reattaching them sort of higher up, the idea is to actually spin everything this way, and then to create a section up here where the ship can dock onto, but have these little turret wings at either side, so that I'll have more width space for bringing things in than height, because this isn't a circle, it's more of an oblong. So inside, I'm going to explain all of this because I'm going to run through it all and just keep the third person camera watching it and sort of go through a bit more. So I'm going to get rid of some of these grinders. As you can see here, I've got a fair few industrial things here, and I've got sort of automatic feed pushing into them. If we check here that it's working, yep. So it's just throwing all the ore in automatically on one side, and then on the other side I've got some gas storage. I need to put in a few more, I've forgotten the name of it now, the O2H2 generators, and then we've got a whole load of assemblers here that I can use for building and maintaining stuff. So the idea is that this block that I've made, I'm going to cut off the builders, and because the builders are actually in two long sections, one section I'm going to weld to one side of the ship, but the other section I'm going to weld to the other side of the ship. I'm going to just sort of destroy everything that's in the middle, replace these thrusters front and back, keep them on the inside as opposed to the outside, and then mount some thrusters sort of top and bottom, front and back, and sort of side to side down at the bottom, if I've got the right orientation. Yeah, sort of like that. So I'll have some pointing this way, some pointing back the way, some pointing left and right, but keeping it all inside to keep it a bit cleaner. This thing here, I think I'm basically going to cut off the solar array and attach it sort of to the front. Basically I'm going to fill in these holes. I'm probably going to completely fill in the holes and then come back to it afterwards, and create some sort of space around about to work with. This sort of section of the station here, I'm gonna sort of dismantle and pull all of this stuff apart, because it's not really, it's all linked together but it's not really doing anything. There's no like force sort of feed in, force feed out, etc. So I think this is all just gonna get carved into sections and then brought inside and recycled down to scrap materials, and then I'm going to try and push that material into the cargo containers. As you can see, I've got the extra large ones up the top. Each of them does have 3.6 million storage, which is, as opposed to, let's have a look at one of the ones out here. This is the standard large ones from the game, and this is 420,000, so they are phenomenally big cargo containers. So I'm just going to keep some at the top. And the idea is that this is the main base, this is sort of the secondary assault ship, so I'll take that to different places when I'm going sort of closer, and then this will get sort of a shuttlecraft or two, a few utility crafts to go with it, but this will be the base where I sort of collect everything. So I also want to modify this design. This was another one of these ships I managed to capture, and I think it's looking good, but I do want to modify it slightly. I missed some of the red there, so that it's got a docking port and it can clamp onto stuff and sort of charge up, because it's, I think I put that on the magnetic grip so that I could grab things, but I want it to have the docking port somewhere so that I can actually attach it to stuff, then blueprint it and make a couple, because I think these are quite useful things. So this is the sort of idea in general. Hopefully by the end of it we have all this sorted, so let's get on with it and see what we can move. So we start off by taking apart the external station. So all I'm doing here is separating it into smaller chunks. I was originally going to take the solar panels off and reuse them, but I decided to just grind them down. So I sliced off solar panel, took it in, then took in the entire separate second section, and got that into the base. Then went back for a little bit more. Now originally I was going to take the other solar panel in but I was thinking about sort of reusing that section on the outside, but I'm ADHD, it just jumped all over the place. So I took a big chunk of it in, and then sort of worked my way around, taking in sections, as you can see there, sort of throwing in some of the loose tubing that was starting to drift away from the refineries and stuff like this. Then cutting it again into smaller chunks, nice and simple. This is where something went wrong, and I still don't know what. There was no control on this block, so that's not me making it spin, I'm trying to counteract it. But for some reason, even without gyroscopes or any parts that should conflict with each other, was no subgrids, but it was still causing issues. So I ended up, it flew away, I managed to cut it into sections, and then you can see me there throwing the last sort of sections in. Some of the blocks are interesting because you have to cut them apart and then remove the ownership from them. So if there's nothing that can be set as an owner, then it just goes neutral and gets sort of decimated. However, sometimes it's been resetting, and I've had sort of common problems, which you'll sort of see later on, where the ownership and also whether it's sort of connected to the base grid keeps changing, and I'm not entirely sure why. I think there might be a mod interfering with something, that whenever you grind any block, or at least I thought it was whenever you grinded any block, it would cause it to detach from the grid, so not be a secured to the space that it's in. I just don't understand what's going on with it. I've tried I've had it come detached when nothing has been built or destroyed, so I'm not quite sure. But as you can see here, I'm just sort of filling in one of the gaps at the front. The idea for this is that it's a big hanger, and it's got a sort of dome shape on the front and then a tail section that comes off. But the dome shape is sort of there for protection, because if I'm heading in towards anything, I don't particularly want to be taking this into combat. However, if I have to go take it too close to something, I want a couple of layers, so that, for instance, a railgun can't penetrate through into the main cargo hold. On the sides, I've kind of gone against that because I've put some things right up against the side wall, but I am going to put some paneling down them. It's just not at the moment. I was trying to do as much of this as possible, as quickly as possible, and the jumps that you can see between the sections that we're talking about, this was sort of 4 or 5 days worth of footage, or at least sort of 4 or 5 separate days and maybe 8 hours. And you can see there that there was all sorts of problems going on, where I was getting phantom physics, things were getting thrown about, it wasn't making sense the way that I had expected it to, and there was all sorts of jankiness going on because of some mod conflicts. Now that is annoying, but I actually quite enjoy this. Like, some of the bugs in the games make for interesting content, and recovering those bugs is something that I've enjoyed. I think I've listed another playlist from my other channel from years ago when I was first sort of looking at doing random YouTubiness, which is a Kerbal playthrough. And one of the things that I quite enjoyed about Kerbal Space Program at that time was, with a lot of mods being updated, sometimes you would have conflicts or things that you had to take out, and if you're trying to maintain a singular save file, then you have to go in and extract that mod, which meant for me, I would have to go in and cut apart like space stations and try and reassemble them in some sort of way while taking the modded part out of it before I updated the mod. So that's something that I quite enjoy, is the extra little conflicts. For me, Space Engineers, the fact that it was sort of more building, and just building in general, seems to do well. If you look at the amount of sandbox games there are, they have not a niche fanbox, they are sort of fairly significant. So it's just something that I enjoy. It makes for a little bit of a laugh, and while it can be frustrating, if it's recoverable, then it's not a big issue. And Space Engineers 1 at least is in a fairly good state. There are still some limitations, some made by the game engine and stuff like this, but I quite enjoy it. So as you can see here, I'm taking off the cheeky subscribe thing because that was just a bit of a laugh before. And I'm just slowly filling in the areas before sort of jumping across to sort of finalising the main hangar. So I'm putting in some of the big gates. This is the Rebel Gates mod, I believe. And I'm just trying to get this all sort of sorted so that I've got a main hangar bay. Although now, looking back on it, because I'm narrating this section after the end section that we'll sort of come back to, now having built the entire thing, I'm considering moving all of these gates. But as you can see there with the Wildcraft, I'm actually having to bring that in to bring them down, because there's so many parts, so many ingredients for these particular gates, that grinding them down if you make a mistake is a problem. So it's better to have the builder system turned off. And I do actually get to a part, we've just gotten to it there, where I don't have enough of, I think it was motors, to finalise the thing, so I need to get more stuff built up. Nickel has been a bit of a problem. It's part of the reason why I've been keeping the stone that I've been mining as well as everything else, because I've been refining that purely for the nickel. Everything else, there was some silicon, there was iron, there was cobalt, magnesium, and everything else in the actual in that asteroid. So it was a phenomenal asteroid. I have no idea where it started from, and when I asked your man, he said he thinks it was a starting asteroid for one of the Redshift crashes ones, but he doesn't quite remember because it was that long ago that all of this was done. Obviously I started this playthrough 6 months ago, and then broken computers and all of that jazz. So once the gates have all been completed, I need to sort out the stuff that's inside. The original plan was to try and reclaim as much as possible. So I wanted to move the cargo container. However, I did a really stupid thing. As you can see here, I'm sort of building reinforcements down the top. And the idea was to just give it a little place to rest. But for some reason, and I still don't know why I did this, I decided not to drain the container and to move it when it was entirely full of ore, which meant that it was at the complete limit of what I could actually do with the tugs that I had. And with this sped up, I think it's running at 2,000 times, you can still see exactly how slow it was to detach the container and then put it into the place. So there's me just cutting away all the stuff from underneath, going around about, welding some basic stuff in, because my brain is like this. I jump between tasks really easily. So you see, I was doing the central container, then I got distracted and started building add-ons for the assemblers behind it, then started doing thrusters. And part of this is because it's not always done at the same time. So in some cases I have gone away, dealt with the family, had dinner, things like that, come back, and my brain sort of jumped onto something else. I really need to leave post-it notes everywhere. But this is what I'm sort of doing, finishing a little bit around about, and then we come back to it. We don't even come back to it yet. I'm still filling in the floor. After the floor is done, this is where we get to move in the container. So I've separated everything, and now there's something that is a little detail there. You can see things drifting. Now they're not being pushed, and I still don't know why I've got this phantom drift. Now I do know that part of this is that cargo container, obviously the camera position isn't moving, so the cargo container has to be drifting. But I do know that some of the other stuff is becoming detached, so I've got this phantom force that keeps coming in. When something is completely solid, it will just start moving off. And it's also, I've had it before, but I've never had it as bad as it's sort of happening in this one, or at least is noticeable. And part of it is that I'm doing a lot of mining, and I'm doing it with multiple miners, so that it becomes noticeable when they stop docking, and you'll see that shortly. So I've gotten this in. I'm using a weld pad mod to get them connected, but I need to get it sort of properly lined up, and that's why you can see here I went in and sort of pulled off some of the blocks, didn't realise that I had moved the weld pad, so I had to put new ones below it and then reconnect everything back up, but eventually got it there. You can see that we've now got thrusters in the top, so that's forwards, left, right, backwards, and then to sort of seal them in and provide a little bit more protection in general and sort of tuck stuff away, I've got this block. I've got two of them. I've got one that's a 10 by 30 and one that's a 5 by 30 that are just big pads. So you just project them and then let the auto builders build them. So I'm just using this to create the ceiling because it's a faster way of doing it. You can just move them about with a projector and it saves having to constantly go in and go out. Not so good for smaller stuff, but that was one of the solutions. Then again, moving a big ream of building units. So again, we're doing this with a weld pad. So a weld pad on a building unit, a weld pad in the corresponding place that I want it welded to. Then just move it into position and clink it down. Nice and simple. So I get the other ones moved out of the way. That one's still got some oxygen tanks attached to it, so it is being problematic, and because of the weight of it there, you can see that I built the container to pull all of the contents out, and then because I don't have access because it's not on, I find two of the random batteries that are floating about, connect them so I can move everything, and that's the solution for moving this stuff about. Then we just plop them down, put the batteries in a nice little spot so that they're actually feeding power to the main thing. ADHD jump to creating this sort of protective area around about the engines, where I decide to actually put some glass in and just make it some sort of weird feature, but I thought it was kind of interesting. I'm not particularly one for doing the pretty stuff. I am a very functional builder in every way possible. I'm a very functional builder. If it comes to carpentry, welding, like in real life, then I can build structure that can hold phenomenal amounts of weight. But if it comes to making something look beautiful, I'm not so good at it, and that's sort of reflected in my games. I can build you something massive that looks functional, that is functional and will do a lot of things, but I can't make it look pretty. So here I'm just sort of cutting these builders into two different sections so that I can drop them down onto this rail and then again use them sort of linked in to the system. Now I do have some pipes running over the top of each other, but I'm trying to maintain a sort of logical understanding of where things go. I don't want too many loops, because the more loops you've got in a cargo system, like for instance if you've got 4 cargo pods and you've got 3 connectors so that they're all in one straight line, that's sort of a nice simple way to use the cargo. But if you've got 4 cargo pods and you've got 5 connectors, sort of connecting them all up so that there's multiple routes to get between cargo pods, it causes like an exponential problem within the processing of Space Engineers when you're accessing the inventory. And because of the build system, it becomes very noticeable. So it's something that's a problem in a normal game, but it's more of a problem with the mods that I'm using, so I'm being aware of that as I'm trying to build this. Now that we're outside, I'm creating a little bay for this mining ship. This is again the WHI mining ship from Funky Bacon. He's done 2 of them, a smaller one and a larger one. I love the both of them. This is just the one I happened to pick, and it's sort of my ice miner, or if I'm going to do stuff personally as opposed to I'm going to set everything up as a shop for auto mining. So that's that. And all we need to do, or what I want to do is, as you can see here, I'm doing sort of like a flattened teardrop back to it, so that I've got a cargo area that I can drop stuff down onto, but then simultaneously I've got that sort of protection into the main hangar, and I don't want it to be blocked by something if I've got something that's too big. So that's the idea behind this. I want sort of a working area outside the ship, but I also want it to be sort of covered. And now that I've actually done this, I'm thinking about putting some slots in the side to actually have some tugcraft on the outside of the ship permanently, but still sort of secluded. But as you can see here, I'm going through it again, bringing out that weld pad, and then just slowly going around, getting everything sort of set up, and I'm building the system here to extend the build system out to the back of the ship. So I'm only putting a few in there, mainly connecting it up with connectors, or with conveyors, sorry, so that it can actually build that far back, because I don't want the build system to extend too far out of the ship. If something comes within sort of 50 metres, 40 metres, then it will get munched by the thing. But a lot of ships are bigger than that, and a lot of the stuff I'm going after are bigger, so I want to have to bring it down into the cargo bay, so that it's not just I've got a magic thing for disassembling everything in front of me. I'm trying to avoid using it in combat, but when things attack the main base, it kind of happens. So that's why, like, putting a build and repair system onto a ship, onto a smaller ship, I would use it in the not the fly mode, the walk mode, so that it will fix stuff on the ship. But I'll sort of only in sort of an emergency, which is probably most of the way that I play. But that's the situation where I would use it in a different sense, where I'm actually using it in an assault capacity. I think it's sort of better run that way. So we're just continuing round the back, and this took so long. I think it was 2 days, and I'm talking like 8 hours worth. I had so many podcasts on. I mean 8 hours in across 2 days, just trying to work out the geometry, because the easy bit here is just putting out large lines and stuff, but getting the actual curve at the back of the ship to look something comfortable took me so long, it was ridiculous. So I'm just sort of filling this stuff up and sort of overshooting the mark for everything, and then coming back and using the little curved blocks. But it did at one point end up taking me so long that I didn't notice that I'd run out of footage. I got it all sort of curved in, and you'll see it in a bit, but then I came across to the front, and then I sort of want to show this because I sort of understand that this is sort of building something in like in survival, so you can build this stuff in creative and it's a hell of a lot easier. And it's part of the problem I've got it's part of the problem with what I've built, because I haven't sort of made it equal. Some of the curved surfaces are not quite right because they're so large, so far apart. I built one to see how it would work and then didn't replicate it the best way. But that's also sort of part of the fun of the survival setting. You're trying to build and harvest and use what you can. So I'm quite enjoying this at the moment. But there you can see I'm just creating this front section. The idea is to create a nice curve, to create the shape that I want, and then I'm going to come back to it afterwards, which still haven't gotten to that point yet, but I'm going to come back to it afterwards and put in a bit more thrusters and put in a bit more armour, so the front's a little bit more protected. And you can see just at the bottom, you can see some little things dropping forward and back. That's the miners, and it's because the ship has drifted, the miners can't find the docking point. And I didn't notice. I did notice they were doing that later on as I was playing through, but I had not noticed that for over 8 hours. So they were sort of constantly doing this in the game, and then eventually I saw it. But as you can see here, they are mining again at this point, so this is sort of after a save off and back, and I'm just sort of trying to complete this curve and get it to fit right at the back end. It's not equal, and also each side is a different size. I think it's like one block off from one side to the other, so it's not the most equal thing that I could use. So this took a lot of time. I was exceptionally happy when I got it all done, because it's pretty much the biggest thing that I have built in Space Engineers that hasn't involved a massively harvested ship. So I know there's a couple of bits from the station that are stuck out the side of it, but they're just kind of add-ons to it. Everything else is something I've created. However, one of the biggest ships that I used for a long time was actually from the AO Circle, which is kind of a famous ship in the game, because it's been in a few of the mods, and it's quite recognisable for the sort of vertical look of it, kind of like one of the Sunfish. And it was put into a few mods. I think it might be in the base game. There's a few different versions of it. It was originally created by a forum or workshop member called Gino, who is still making stuff, and his stuff is fantastic. But I had multiple versions of this ship that got bigger and bigger and bigger, because I was, in one of my original playthroughs, I was capturing so many of them that I decided to cut two of them, not quite down the middle but off centre, and then join the two largest parts together. And then I did that again with a few more. I think I ended up getting 6 or 7 in a playthrough. And so the main ship that I have, which was massive, was actually multiple versions of this stuck together. And I did put it up on the workshop. It is there if anybody wants to have a look. I can't remember what I called it at the moment, but it was humongous. But it was just all harvested parts. So I quite like doing that in general. You may have seen one of the ships that I've got I've called it the Susie or something like that. It's a sort of bastardized version of one of the Star Trek ships. It could have been the Enterprise, I can't remember which one it was. It does have Enterprise parts in it, but it's just sort of cobbled together from other people's builds and then sort of customized to what I needed. And that's the usual way I build. So this is actually, although it looks very simplistic, it is one of the few things that I've sort of built entirely from scratch, which I thought was pretty cool. And I've just noticed it does also have those nacelles top and bottom, which are not from scratch, but to be honest, at this point they're not really needed. I'm not going to get rid of them just because they are there. They're kind of cool and they provide extra gas storage, so that's always useful. But yeah, so at this point we have the working ship, as you can see there. It's nice and smooth on the front. So we have a little bit of a cockpit at the beginning, at the front of the ship. We also have a couple of hangars at the back of the ship on either side of it, and it's the idea I'm going to store the miners there. We have this docking platform at the top, which is still a bit problematic. I've reinforced it because it kept getting destroyed as I was trying to build the ship, trying to dock the ships together. Here's one of the side hangars. We've got some doors on the, some buttons on this one, but I still need to finalise the other ones. And the idea is just when I'm moving or when I think I might be fighting, tuck away the mining ships in here. They can't mine from here because of the restrictions. They need a bit more open space for the scripting to work, but it's a good little storage situation. And just there, I managed to notice that I missed a block. As it happens, I had the right one selected, which almost never happens to me. So this is the part where some stuff is going sideways. I am trying to get the gas tanks onto the inside and recover everything. And sorry for the speed of this. I'm just trying to get sort of shoot through it as fast as possible. But I switch between one tug and the other tug. I dock everything up, and then physics kicks in. It just goes sideways. So I'm gonna just drop back to the current timeline to see what's going on. Now I'm just looking at numbers, going forward until it stops going down. That seems to be us. There we go. So I got those parts in. And it's got 2 downwards thrusters. Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa! Okay, I have no idea what caused that to loop there. Oh, piss it. The thing is shifting. The hell just happened? Whoa! So I weld a couple of parts to it and it unlocks from the ground and starts moving. The hell is going on? So has it unfastened again? It has, yeah. And it's significantly further back than it was. Also, moving stuff is a problem because it's actually quite a big problem. Because I've got free floating crap up here now. Has that just been entirely wrecked? Yeah. Okay, so I'm down most of this, yeah. Right, let's go and get some tools. We're going to need them. Grinder. Every time. Like it's not even a joke, it really is. There's all sorts of stuff going weirdly wrong with this. Bottle. Give me thermal, oxygen. Why is that oxygen only partly full? I don't even care. I need bar and water. Right, food bar. 2 of them. Take those water packets. Then this thing's still at the moment, so let's go and get that. Take a blueprint of this. Thank God. I really can't be asked welding all of that again. Projector 2 blueprints. By date. The light hugger. And it pauses and freezes. Oh jeez. The hell? No, but seriously, what the hell? Where is it? Right, okay. Got a rough idea. So we need to... I'm actually just going to throw the entire thing forward. That looks wrong. So if we go back to that, and then, oh, there we go. It's now completely backwards. So I want to go that way. Vertical. There we go. Horizontal. A lot more vertical. Bring this all the way back through. Then, if I'm correct, line up those 2 lights, and that's the build. Right. And then turn the builders back on. And just because it's easier, can't actually jump any closer than that. Oops, wasn't paying attention. Ah, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. Oh. Bollocks. Okay, that one was on me. The first one I didn't do, but that one was on me. Oh. Twonked. It's just been twonked. Right. Everything. I need every part of this. You name it, nobody owns it. And I need to get this thing moving in the same direction as it. Don't run away. So vertical thrusting. Oh. We got a little speed boost there, and you can see it's taken off again. So it seems to be something to do with lag that's causing it to bounce. I wasn't actually touching it when it took off there. Right, so I'm just gonna have a look at this, make sure that it's built. What's it saying? It has built and turned off, so all I'm gonna do is take that one off, take this one off. And then technically we have, oh, interesting. So it's got a full ability to get into it from the ground. But yeah, so this is one of the new ones. There we go. If you noticed what happened right there, it actually ground off the pieces that I was attached to, but I was still moving forward. So it ground off some pieces, and then the secondary pieces got put back in place, and it's just done it again. So I'm just gonna, there we go. I'm locked to the bottom. These bits are coming in, and now that they're in the main bay, they'll get munched fairly fast. So with that being done and sort of basic repairs in place, right, so first things up is the build system. I need to throw these in, so I need to have them toggle block on and off, then weld before grind. Where is it? Weld before grind, grind before weld, and grinding only is the 3 settings that I use. Oops. Grinding only, fantastic. Then I'm looking for the jump drives, so I'm going to link these all together. Oh, actually, I'm going to change the name of jump drive 10 and 11. So I've got main and short, but I am going to link them all together. There we go. So jump drive main, jump, oh no, jump drive main, jump, jump drive short, jump, and then increase and decrease range. $669 kilometers is what I can manage. Now, I don't want to go that far. Also, I can hear stuff rattling. If stuff is not fully attached, which is usually what the rattling comes from, we will not have that problem after we've jumped. That banging is definitely from something. It could be rubble from something stuck somewhere, but who knows. What I want to do, I'm just going to adjust the jump drive down. I want to around about 600. 3. Yeah, 603, that should do us. And I want the this is something that is a little bit sketchy. It's not a little bit sketchy, it is massively sketchy. I am not particularly skilled at this. This ship is still fairly vulnerable. Oh, there's an idea actually. might do it after the jump. So the idea is that for the final act of today, we are going to jump close to that unidentified signal, and then in the next episode we shall give it a go and see what we can manage. I'm going to have to get tooled up. We are going to have to get some armament. I am not highly skilled at this game, so this is a risk, a big risk. However, I think I have a plan. I'm going for a jump, what you call it, that is shorter range, short of the range should I say, specifically because I don't want to garner too much attention. I do want to put this thing into a place where I can grab hold of it, go in for the thing. 7. So I can go in, I can assault the position, and then I can run the hell away if it goes bad, because I'm assuming it's going to go bad. I've only ever done one of these before, even though they've been out for a while, and it didn't go well. Now, we have to recharge the stuff. That's probably going to draw out a lot of our power, but for the moment we are not too bad. So yeah, thanks for watching. As per usual, if you've enjoyed this, down below, comments, stuff like that. Always like to see them, always like to see your ideas and stuff like this. I'm going to do a fair bit more of these. I'm also going to do a run for Kerbal Space Program at the same time, and then I've got the other idea about doing the sort of, not like reviews, but closer to sort of introductions to games that I've liked and games that I think are particularly good, and in all different genres. I'm very eclectic when it comes to all this stuff, so if you want to see something like that, you've got an idea for it, or you've got something that you think I may not have played, and to put that in front of me, always willing to see it. At the moment, that's sort of the main idea and the focus of it. There will be a lot of EVE content as well, and if Frontier sort of comes back to the sort of free market, then I might have a look at it again. I did have a fair bit of a look at it. I'm very curious about the game, although I do have a lot of reservations about it. But yeah, if that's what you're liking, thanks very much. Bye.